Remember, they turn off the program. They were like, we'll try and help you. 2 seasons go by, and they bring him back, and he's all like, I was awake that whole time, and now I'm pissed.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Do you think they call him Maury?
I would.
Yeah, probably.
If you were friends with Aradia?
Or Artie.
Sure. That's his full name, Maury Artie. Folks, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name's Jordan Dahl.
I am Nate Balding.
And I am Roger Norquist.
Today's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by the Monstroco Hat Sharpener. Calling all witches. Halloween is almost upon you, and you know what happens to witches caught with a dull hat on or around Samhain. Avoid the hell of the Pretender's Coffin this Halloween, and keep your hat pointy enough to catch a falling frog with the Monstroco Hat Sharpener. What the fuck?
Yeah, I gotta re-up on that, actually.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be caught with a dull hat.
I'm expecting raining frogs this Halloween too.
Mm-hmm.
So
they'll put you in the Pretender's Coffin, and some people never come out, or when they come out, they are changed. They have seen the truth of their own falsities.
I have baseball caps.
Mm-hmm.
How does it sharpen that? The front?
Yeah, it'll get the brim real sharp, like kind of a Peaky Blinders situation. You can throw it across the room, all odd job.
Yeah.
If it's a mesh back, you can make that mesh like razor wire.
Yeah.
Solid product, then. Solid product. I was worried I wouldn't be able to use it.
No. You can definitely use it. And there's actually different settings for the brims. You can make like you make it like pointy, like, like a knife point, or like it'll stay blunt, but the edge will be razor sharp, if that makes sense. You can make it 3 points.
Ooh.
Trident cut hat, a la Cyberpunk 2077, which I'm playing again, which I love. They've really fixed a lot of the things. Christopher Lloyd is in it now. He's the main character. You play Christopher Lloyd. Oh, what's going on, Chumbas? My Christopher Lloyd is just Nixon. Marty, there's Chumbas everywhere.
It's not far off, gentlemen. It's October.
Mm-hmm.
The month we're most powerful.
I have decided. We are most powerful. Our skeletons grow 3 inches in October, and not upwards, outwards. Talk about big bones. These things get stout. We get heavier. We begin to take on a gourd-like structure inside.
We crave milk unexpectedly.
We crave milk mixed with
tons
cow's
of calcium.
blood. Mm-hmm. I have decided that for all of October, I'm going to talk about witches. I'm calling this Witch-tober.
Smooth. I love it. Good name, actually.
Thank you. I took witches and October, and I went into the office and I studied for 3 days, and I figured out a way to portmanteau them, as you say. That said, may I go first? I have a witch to tell you about.
Here's the speaking skull. I'm going to put a hat on it. I'll let you sharpen it. There we go.
Let's get that. Oh, that is a dull hat. Let's sharpen that right up. I think it's probably like a pencil sharpener. There we go. Perfect. I want to talk to you guys about Aradia. You ever heard about Aradia?
Aradia?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Aradia.
So like Babylonian erotica?
So this is from Llewellyn.com has an introduction to Aradia. Aradia is a name that most witches become familiar with at some point along their journey into witchcraft. The name itself is most popularly known from the classic 1899 works of Charles Godfrey Leland, Aradia, or the Gospel of Witches. Who is Aradia? Where did the gospel come from? Did a witch tradition really survive in Italy? Did Leland make the whole thing up? All of these questions have been proposed and debated since its first publication, but no one really took the time to go back and look at the source material. Here is 5 facts every witch should know about Aradia.
All right, witches, prepare, learn.
Number
Get
1.
your pencils ready.
Okay, sharpen those hats, witches. Number 1, a champion of the witches. Aradia is often described as the witches' messiah, the savior sent to earth by the old gods to help their enslaved people to be liberated from the oppression of the Roman Catholic Church and the Italian upper class. Basically, Aradia is witch Jesus? Is that fair?
Yeah, but also
that seems unfair.
Apparently,
Kind of, they call her the queen of witches sometimes. Although Witch Jesus felt immediately wrong. I'd like to take that back right away. That felt like sacrilege to 2 different traditions, and I would like to apologize to any of those entities listening. I'm trying to understand. She was there to liberate people from the oppression of the Roman Catholic Church. Although it is true that the gospel portrays her in this light, I much prefer to think of her as the champion of witches. The term Messiah can be quite loaded. It comes with a sense of salvation being held within an individual, blah, blah, blah. The craft does not and has never needed an intermediary, and Aradia does not claim to be one. Aradia empowers her people to liberate themselves with the gifts of witchcraft, and this is relevant to us practitioners today as it ever was. Number 2, personality of the goddess. As a champion leading the people in their fight for freedom, we are shown a lot about the nature and personality of this amazing goddess. As a champion of the oppressed, Aradia is shown to stand against injustice. This not only highlights her nature as a feisty rebel willing to challenge the establishment, she is also shown to have great empathy and compassion for those disempowered souls who need to reconnect with their own magic and personal power. As a teacher to these people, she tells them, quote, "When I shall have departed from this world, whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, when the moon is full, adore the mighty spirit of my mother Diana, and ye shall all be freed from slavery." Some people have called Aradia the daughter of the moon herself.
Ooh.
okay.
Other known names and roles. Leland's Gospel is not the only place that records Aradia and her association with the goddess Diana. The infamous 1486 current era witch hunting manual, Malleus Maleficarium, which we'll talk about another day, which means the hammer of the witches, has curious footnotes that links Aradia, or Herodias, with the witches' cult of Diana in Italy. In addition, the Malleus Maleficarum, the famous canon Episcopi, also indicates the same relationship between Diana and Aradia. This demonstrates these 2 figures were central to witchcraft practices of the time. So basically, Aradia, kind of a messianic champion figure in Italian witchery.
Yeah, probably big figure in the Strega community.
Yeah. Number 5, the Charge of Benevento. The Charge of the Goddess, that much-loved ritual liturgy written by the late Doreen Valiente, was greatly influenced by a number of much older source material. One of the most prominent influences to appear in the bulk of the texts is directly taken from Leland's Aradia. The original, quote, charge, this is sort of a, what do you call it? It's like an incantation of sorts that is given directly from Aradia to the witches. This is what she told them to do, basically. Includes major references to workings timed with the full moon, as well as an emphasis on community. Within this declaration, Aradia tells the people that they are to play, quote, the game of Benevento. Benevento has long been considered an important meeting site for Italian witches, with associations becoming more widely popular in 1273. It was here that the witches would gather to perform their rites and spells around a sacred walnut tree. Famous witch trials in 1428 reinforced these associations more strongly within the culture of Italy. Freely admitting that such events took place, one witch described a special ointment or unguent that was rubbed onto the armpits and breasts to cause an out-of-body experience that allowed them to fly to Benevento to celebrate. The spell that was most frequently attributed to the activation of this unguent was "Unguent, unguent, carry me to the walnut tree of Benevento, above the water and above the wind and above all other bad weather." Remember when we talked about
witch grease?
Yeah, that witch grease. We talked about witch grease. We talked about slipping the keyhole. That's what's happening right here. Occasionally, the witches claimed that their spirit would ride on a broomstick or a key sometimes after the spell was cast, which just goes to show how deeply rooted these cultural images became within the global consciousness. This is a little bit more on Aradia from occultworld.com. Aradia, the Tuscan legend of Aradia, daughter of the moon goddess Diana, who was dispatched to Earth to establish witchcraft and to teach it to witches, was published by American folklorist Charles Godfrey Leland, who we already talked about, in 1889. The book was written in 1889, basically, where he dropped the dime and the whole kind of secret about Aradia. In 1889, Leland said the legend had been passed on to him by a hereditary Etruscan witch named Maddalena. Godfrey said the name Aradia is a corruption of Herodias, or Queen Herodias, the wife of Herod, with whom Diana came to be identified in the late 11th century. Leland went to Tuscany. He went in northern Italy in the 1880s. There he met a, quote, sorceress named Maddalena, whom he employed to collect from her witch, quote, sisters old spells and traditions. In 1886, he heard about a manuscript that supposedly set down the old tenets of witchcraft. He told Maddalena to find it. A year later, she gave him a document in her own handwriting, an alleged copy of this manuscript, or just something she
wrote it herself. Yeah.
No, people don't do that. They find it, just like
certainly not witches.
Just like that Mormon guy read the tablets. He just didn't write it down. How dare all of you?
Yes. Leland translated it into English and published it as Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches. He was struck by the references to Diana and Lucifer and offered it as evidence of witchcraft as an old religion. In his preface, he acknowledged drawing from other unspecified sources. He never produced Maddalena or any documentation to verify her existence. Aradia recounts the story of Diana's daughter and of Diana's rise to become Queen of the Witches. Diana is created first among all beings and divides herself into light and darkness. She retains the darkness and makes the light into Lucifer, whose name means light bearer, her brother and son. Wow. She falls in love with him and seduces him by changing herself into a cat. Boy, that's...
There's a lot that you that you just told us there.
Yeah. Their daughter from that union, Aradia, is destined to become, quote, the Messiah of witches. Aradia lives for a while in heaven and then is sent to earth by Diana to teach the arts of witchcraft, especially poisoning and malevolent acts against, quote, oppressors. This is a quote from the book. And thou shalt be the first of witches known, and thou shalt be the first of all eye in the world, and thou shalt teach the art of poisoning those who are the great lords of all. Yea, thou shalt make them die in their palaces, and thou shalt bind the oppressor's soul with power. And when ye find a peasant who is rich, then ye shall teach the witch, your pupil, how to ruin all his crops with tempests dire, with lightning and with thunder terrible, and with the hail and wind. And when a priest shall do you injury by his benedictions, ye shall do to him double the harm, and do it in the name of me, Diana, queen of witches all. Some pretty fucking hard shit to say.
Yeah.
But when you memorize it and say it with feeling, the spells you can do.
Yeah. When Aradia's task is finished, Diana recalls her daughter to heaven and gives her the power to grant the desires of the meritorious witches who invoke Aradia. Such requests include success in love, and the power to bless friends and curse enemies, as well as, quote, to converse with spirits, to find hidden treasures in ancient ruins, to conjure the spirits of priests who died leaving treasures, to understand the voice of the wind, to change water into wine, to divine with cards. I mean, that water into wine thing, you know, I'm not gonna say it again, but
Jesus was a witch.
You know where we're at here. To know the secrets of the hand, palmistry, to cure diseases, to make those who are ugly beautiful, and to tame wild beasts.
Those some cool powers. I like each and every one of them.
Yeah.
It's a wide array.
The invocation of Aradia is given as follows. This is another quote from the book. I am not doing an invocation, just recounting. Thus do I seek Aradia, Aradia, Aradia. At midnight I go into a field, and with me I bear water, wine, and salt. I bear water, wine, and salt, and my talisman, my talisman, my talisman, and a small red bag, which I ever hold in my hand, con dentro, sale, with salt in it. With water and wine I bless myself. I bless myself with devotion to implore a favor from Aradia, Aradia. Pretty cool.
That was very good. I'm glad it wasn't midnight, or else something would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, she shows up. You don't have that red handbag.
Oh boy.
It's all over for you.
Yeah. So those are kind of the basics of Aradia. She's sort of the Queen of Witches, I have heard her called, which is pretty cool. I have one more item here that I would like to read from.
Share.
This is from teaandrosemary.com. This is their entry on Aradia. Aradia is a famous witch who was born in Tuscany, Italy. She's also known as the Queen of Witches. And her story says that she was a peasant girl who had an especially strong connection with nature. We haven't actually heard this part yet. The story of Aradia has been passed down through generations by oral tradition, and there are many variations on this famous witch's origin story. The tale usually follows Aradia as she was told that she is a divine goddess, which led her to the discovery of witchcraft. Aradia became famous in England and America when Margaret Murray wrote about her in 1921 for The Witch Cult in Western Europe, which is a book that Margaret Murray wrote. Murray argued that Aradia was an incarnation of Diana, who had come into the world on the eve of the Christian era to teach witches how to worship Diana. Aradia's story has inspired a lot of famous witches in history, like Gerald Gardner, who wrote about her and founded England's Wiccan movement.
Yeah, he's pretty much the father of the whole Wiccan deal, Gardnerian witchcraft.
He based his belief system on witchcraft as taught by Aradia, it says here. One famous witchcraft rite that's attributed to Aradia is The Ritual of Diana, Goddess of Witches, which was published in 1916 by a man named Charles Leland, who we've met already. It describes how witches invoked and worshipped her while looking for love and good health. While there is not much information about this famous witch from history, legend says that she was a famous witch who had strong connections to nature. Now we're repeating ourselves, which was where her power came from. So that's kind of the long and short on Aradia, daughter of Diana, goddess of the moon, queen of the witches. Perhaps the first witch, depending on who you listen to. That does it for this entry of Witch-tober, that I'm calling Which Witch is Which.
Bravo.
Bravo. The speaking skull in the name of the moon.
I can take it.
Take it. I want to end with my ghost story, so please take it.
All right.
Please take it.
I'm taking it. Oh, that hat sharpener works real fast.
Right? Sharp hat coming through.
Beware, the skull has now taken some of my blood.
Oh boy, it's got a taste for blood.
Host blood. So, everyone be careful.
Yeah.
It's different than listener blood. We're sick.
It's got a very specific palate now.
Mm-hmm. That's how you become the host.
Oh fuck! It's coming inside of my skull. That's not what I meant. I meant that it's like going inside.
Too late. Skull. It's recorded.
I wanted to talk about a particular dog man.
It sounds like you were about to complain about your neighbor's dog man.
Gentlemen of the HOA, I want to talk to you about Mr. Smith's dog man.
This thing, it's barking all night. It's taking huge man-sized dumps on my lawn while stealing my newspaper and reading it and looking at me through the window.
I asked for my slippers and just chews them the fuck up.
He swallowed them whole. And then guess what's on my lawn the next day? Mingled in with a man-sized dump.
This is the story of the Kentucky Dog Man, a.k.a. the Beast of the Land Between the Lakes.
Yes, we've been waiting for this.
It is said to resemble a gigantic half-man, half-wolf, although it refers to him as a dog most of the time, that walks on two legs and has 5-fingered human hands ending in vicious claws.
I mean, pretty cool. If you're going to be a werewolf, that's the one to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that's the one that's in everyone's minds. That's the star werewolf, if you will.
That's that Krynos form, baby.
The creature is said to stand over 7 feet tall, with massive crushing jaws and glowing eyes. There are several legends attached to the beast. One story begins with a Native American creature with the ability to shapeshift. Another legend speaks of a man who left Europe in the 1800s to settle between the rivers, quote unquote, which if you look it up, the place looks amazing. This man supposedly possessed a disease that turned him mad after nightfall.
Oh boy.
What's that called? Sundownsing or something?
Sundowner.
Real disease. The movie The Visit's based on it.
Ugh.
Oh,
spooky.
Awful movie too. I love it.
The disease was believed to be genetic and was passed from parent to child over the years. They remained in seclusion, never going to school or having the desire to socialize with others, until one day they went silent. Many people believe that the family had died. An investigation in the early 1900s revealed that their homestead was vacant and abandoned. Early accounts so this is just an entire family of people that go insane every night.
Wow.
That's pretty rare genetically in terms of how disease is passed. Like, certainly someone will be sane at night.
Yeah, somebody's got to keep an eye on the dog.
The first wife would have been, and unless he found another person that had, night disease.
He's got the night madness. Every night he dresses like a bat and stalks the city, beating people up.
Early accounts from French explorers and traders in the region speak of their being warned of the shadowy presence of a loup-garou by Shawnee fur traders. A later legend claims that the monster is the spirit of a shape-shifting Shawnee shaman. That's fun to say.
So that 5 times.
I don't think I can. I don't think I physically can say that.
Shape-shifting Shawnee shaman.
Yeah, that would make Roger pass out.
I'm afraid to do it. I still got to do my segment.
Who was killed in wolf form by the inhabitants of his village for abusing his powers.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody can turn into a wolf, you got to make sure that they're like treating that with respect.
Fuck
Reined
that
in.
shit. I'd abuse
Yeah.
it all the time. I'd be like, hey, guess what I can do?
Oh, did I lose at cards today? Did I? I'm a 7-foot wolf man now. Who lost at cards today? Hey, you fuckface. Your kid said that my kid has a stupid face at school. Guess what? You have no face at school now.
Anyway, that spirit is said to still walk the woods in search of revenge. Accounts of the creature from the early days of American expansion into Kentucky tell of hunters disappearing in the woods and of strange, unnatural howls that echoed through the forests at night.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, bison still roamed wild in Kentucky, which I did not know. I felt like they were way further
It
west.
doesn't seem like there's a lot of room. I've been to Kentucky. It's a very like woods area.
Well, they mainly stay in the trees.
Oh, right. Tree bison.
Up in the canopy.
Ah, gotcha.
Brachiating from branch to branch.
The bison's natural habitat.
Yes, of course.
And hunters would sometimes encounter mutilated carcasses of the massive animals lying half-eaten in the deep grass, their throats ripped open by massive claws.
See, now that is a responsible dog man. You prey on game and such.
Yeah. Even now, with the efforts to restore the bison to Kentucky, again, had no idea anyone was doing that, the rangers and herd managers occasionally find calves missing. After one of the young goes missing, the herd is reputedly spooked for days, sticking together in the close formation that the animals use to protect themselves from predators. Now we get to some modern sightings.
Ooh, I love a good modern sighting.
Me too.
Because it scares the shit out of me when it's nighttime.
And sometimes they use swears.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Modern swears.
The Lou, fuck you. Hey.
Yeah.
There have been several reports of close encounters with the creature in modern times. One of the most frightening of these happened to a group of Murray State University students who were camping in the land between the lakes in 1973. A group of young men were enjoying the woods on a warm spring weekend, sitting around a fire built by their VW. It says built by their VW microbus, but I think they mean next to.
Like buy it, like next.
Yeah.
This microbus it's not a fucking bumblebee situation.
Why not?
I guess it
Would you
could
like
be.
me to build you a camp? We can smoke weed and listen to Jack Johnson.
Which I'm sure that's probably what they were doing.
They were
Match.
definitely boning.
Well, maybe.
I mean,
as
Bumblebee was there.
As the evening began drawing in, one of the students went off into the woods to answer the call of nature. When he returned to the campsite, he told his friends that he'd felt like something was watching him and that he had, quote, heard something sniffing in the woods. His friend said that he'd just heard a wild hog or some other animal. The student, which is not necessarily cause to ignore it.
Yeah, which is just as frightening. If you don't know what's happening throughout America, hogs are literally taking over. And throughout the country. Did you know that Rome is still under a hog alert?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so the city of Rome's has been under assault from hogs for the past like 4 years, maybe even longer.
Wow. They want the Pope.
They want the Pope, but that's not what this
Pope.
story's about. Just an interesting aside.
Well, we can always pause for some hog talk.
Yeah.
Okay, we all need to get a gun because these hogs are breaking down the doors.
Welcome to Hog Talk. Get them out, fellas.
They're trying to eat us because we ate them. Okay?
Yeah. And we still do. I had hog for breakfast, hog for lunch, hog for dinner, hog for brunch. That's what we say in my house. And then the hogs get in. And we stop saying that. And we hide our ham.
All right, that's as political as we're going to get on this episode. Sorry, everyone.
So anyway, the student said he'd never heard anything like it before, and he grew increasingly nervous as the darkness gathered. As the night grew dark, again, bad turn of phrase, my friend. The night is always dark.
Mm-hmm.
The group started to hear the shuffling sound of something large moving in the fallen leaves.
This is one of the main things about the dark, really, the night. Sorry, go ahead.
It seemed to be circling their campsite, moving incredibly swiftly. The boys began to become anxious. They shined their flashlights into the woods in the direction of the footsteps, but saw nothing. And then the howling began. It was a wild, insane howling, like a wolf, only much louder than any wolf could ever be, and with an unnatural, blood-curdling quality that made the howling sound almost like mocking laughter.
That's a husky. I know that sound. I've heard it many times before.
Loki, come here. Loki, get in here. You're scaring the villagers.
It seemed to come from... Go ahead.
Could you imagine being the first person to hear a husky? Not see it, just hear it. And go like, we don't go outside.
Yeah. Roll them up.
It seemed to come from everywhere around them. First one side of the circle of light around the fire, then from the other. Soon the terrified campers began to catch glimpses of a pair of glowing red eyes as they ran past in the dark. The terrified boys retreated into their Volkswagen bus and wisely decided not to stick around to get a better view. Tearing down the road, they soon saw that they were being pursued and that a massive shadowy figure was racing behind them.
Oh boy.
Barely visible in the bus's taillights.
Yowza.
As the bus slowed to take a corner, they felt a massive jolt, and then it seemed as if something was holding the Volkswagen back.
This is a movie. This is an actual movie. I'm imagining one of these kids like on Instagram being like, "My life is a literal movie," as this is all happening.
Giving it everything, they broke free and tore out of the forest and didn't stop until they were back on the Murray State campus.
Oh, they weren't giving it everything before that?
No, they slowed down a little bit to take this turn because they're not going to do it dangerously, Jordan. Okay, they're going to take this turn safely.
You already said that
the
they
dark
were smoking
shadow
grass
with
out
claws
there.
is chasing them.
Nothing more dangerous than that, Roger.
You're not wrong.
Back on campus, they found 4 deep gashes like claw marks torn into the metal of the engine compartment cover at the back of the bus.
Signed, Stephen King.
Another widely circulated story tells of the discovery of a bloody scene inside the motorhome of a family camping in the area in the 1980s. Police are said to have found the horribly mutilated bodies of a visiting family lying in their blood-soaked motorhome, and the half-eaten body of the family's young daughter lodged in a tree nearby.
Who didn't finish this body? This is half-eaten. Somebody left it out.
Well, eventually it gets cold, and then you get bored with it.
Lose interest.
The bodies are all said to have had distinctive massive claw marks. This incident was supposedly covered up by the authorities so as not to damage the tourist industry and in the then economically fragile region.
Yeah, they want people to keep coming to Werewolf Woods.
Well,
tourism is their biggest economic boon.
Yeah.
So the rest of this cryptid article is a first-person thing.
Oh.
Last modified on July 31st of this year.
Interesting.
Evidence for and encounters with the beast between the lakes continue to this day. Experienced hunters shy away from the area, but those sportsmen who are new enough to the area to scoff at the legends often come home with tales of feeling as if they're being stalked in the woods. Deep holes, like nests, are often found dug in the woods, with tufts of long, coarsely textured grayish-brown fur within. Rangers
doesn't anybody ever take that fur to for a taste test or something?
I mean, I think
see if it tastes like a werewolf.
Yeah,
it probably just shows up as either dog or wolf hair, canine hair of some kind.
Fair. Good point.
Rangers in the park are routinely asked what the strange howling was that a camper heard during the night.
Wow.
Here's this one starts, quote, I live in West Kentucky, 30 minutes from the LBL. I have tried hunting this thing, observation only, more than once.
I was going to say.
It was Moss Creek where the family was butchered by this thing.
Ugh.
That's when they put up a gate there and banned overnight camping, and it closes down at sunset.
That'll keep them out.
The excuse they gave at the time, preserving tourism, is that there was a random stabbing one night.
Oh.
2 cops talked to a girl at a well-known gas station type store and were regularly in there, and they told her about what they saw. No bodies or body parts, but shredded bloody clothes,
Ugh.
some from a kid, on the ground and in some trees.
Ugh.
Blood everywhere.
That's upsetting as hell.
But no bodies?
Yeah, I guess. Well, they didn't tell the girl that they saw any bodies.
Roger.
Sure, that's probably just to be like, don't worry, there was no bodies.
Roger.
But
They ate them. The bodies were aided.
The girl told me this personally, and I will leave it at that. This happened in the late 80s. I have talked to old-timers in Grand Rivers, Cadiz. They all basically say the same thing, that it's real. Some wouldn't talk to me at all. I'll stop the ramble, but I'd be glad to discuss it with anyone.
You know, if I was writing this movie, they would later find out that the campers weren't eaten. They became werewolves.
That's a solid. Yep.
And that's why they found the shredded clothes.
Because they TF'd out of it.
They TF'd the fuck out. Yeah, exactly.
Pertaining to the quoted text directly above, that girl was my mother, the late Jeanette Thompson.
Whoa!
The story titled The Beast of LBL, as written and told by Jeanette Thompson, is the original telling of many accounts and encounters with this creature in and around the Land Between the Lakes State Park.
Dang.
They also say that her story is featured in Bart Nunnally's documentary film Hunt the Dog Man, which apparently came out in 2007.
I'm going to cue that right now.
I think I should.
Why are you taking your pants off?
Because that's how I watch all movies.
In the film, she's interviewed on her personal encounters and confirms the quoted text above. And he goes on to say, as her only son, it's my personal obligation to keep her legacy alive and to ensure that she's properly credited.
That's fucking brutal.
Yeah, man. The beast of the land between the lakes.
Here's the thing. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh man, there's werewolves out there. It would be cool to be a werewolf. But then you hear a story like this and you're like, nah, I don't want to.
You don't want to lodge half a girl's body into a tree.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to eat a fam. You know,
maybe
just out hanging out. Unless maybe this is a Dexter werewolf and they were a family of.
You think they were
neo-Nazi serial killers? And it was like, wow. Game on. You know?
Maybe it could also be this is an evil one. Maybe there's many werewolves out there, and we just hear about the evil ones because, of course, they leave the bizarre bodies that the news obsesses about.
There's good ones out there who are chasing down this evil one.
We probably shouldn't consider the were creatures a monolith.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, I take it back. I'm sorry, were creatures.
Because some are out there just murdering whoever, while others are only murdering their best friends.
While others are out there hanging Jeffrey Epstein. That's right. That's what really happened.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
But a werewolf did.
Every prison has one wereguard.
They keep him on staff. They tell him, hey, watch your ass. Don't do any werewolf shit. But then... you know, you can't help yourself. You're hanging out, you're watching Teen Wolf, you get all jazzed up about the idea.
And
Next
then
thing
you're
you know.
just left on camera detail, and then you realize you have all the power, and sometimes the cameras get turned off.
By a massive clawed hand.
That sounds pretty close to reality, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, that is that segment.
Bravo.
Check it out. Watch this movie, Hunt the Dog Man.
Hunt the
Hunt
dog,
man.
Hunt the dog man. Oh, in the
But
night
be safe.
time.
I say carry a large caliber revolver, nice and loud, and to scare off the dog man if he comes at you.
I say carry the biggest porterhouse steak that you can find. And then if the dog man's coming at you, you throw it over a fence or something and you escape.
Or break bread with the dog man,
Break bread with the dog
Bring
man.
a nice bread to the hunt, invite him over, and just let him know you're here to talk. You want to find out what he does.
You want to know what the deal is.
Like that St. Francis of Assisi story where there was a wolf terrorizing a town. So he went up and he just I think he made the sign of the cross or whatever and told the wolf, hey, come with me and be cool about it. And then they went to the town and he was like, see, the wolf is only attacking your children because it's hungry. If you agree to feed it, you can live in harmony.
And the wolf was like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I blew it. This isn't going to be in the Bible, is it?
And I don't know if it is.
It definitely isn't, because this happens well after that was published.
Yeah, but it's always changing. Books be taken out, I hear. Books be put in.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping to get the Book of Roger put in, and that's when the world's going to learn some weird stuff.
Some of my favorite biblical stuff is that St. Francis of Assisi fanfic. Old St. Franny out there doing some extended universe shit.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to take the ultra sharp speaking skull.
Yeah.
Now,
be careful.
Now bloodthirsty.
Yep, now bloodthirsty, but I'll try to not let it bite me when I'm reading this segment.
You cannot
carefully hand its chattering jaws over to you.
If it gets
Excellent.
2 tastes of host blood in the same day, we are 1 taste of host blood away from a real catastrophe.
Real catastrophe. Well, my segment is about catastrophes that have already happened.
Ooh.
And then the people who got catastrophized come back, and we call them ghosts. I have for the month of Halloween. This one is from travel.com. I'm going to be reading some ghost stories from Reddit.
Dope.
Scariest ghost stories.
Arguably.
Leave the lights on when you read these bone-chilling stories is what Travel Channel says. I say don't.
It's surprising how many stories are on travel.com. That should have you not wanting to visit any of the places.
Yeah, for real.
What we're saying is you pause this right now and wait till it's midnight and start listening, get spooked out. And I'm going to read you some stories that have been collected over the Reddit sphere. The first one,
Reddit is an excellent source for scary stories because it's a place where you can post anonymously, free of judgment. You get a lot of bullshit on there, but every once in a while you get somebody just being like, I don't know who else to tell about this.
And we're here to find it when somebody else aggregates it into a top 11 list.
Absolutely.
The first one I'm going to read from, and this was all collected and curated by Beth Brandon. The first one's entitled, It Wasn't a Little Girl. So I was camping with my husband and his family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people in the next campsite. It was nighttime, and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, telling stories that weren't ghost-related, swimming. When we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling for help.
Yikes.
Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises from together.
Nope. No, you don't. Nope, that's not what you do. She's out there for the night. Sorry, kid.
There was a field behind our campsites, and we saw a very tall, pure white figure standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field and making the noises.
So this is what they call a pale crawler. And this is the new terror of the modern age. It's a newer cryptid / paranormal entity. There's shades of Slender Man on this thing.
Little Wendigo type with the mimicking of another human.
This is one of the stories quite often have this feature in them. It'll sound like somebody calling for help, or somebody that maybe even that saying your name in the woods who shouldn't be there. And the golden rule is, no, you didn't hear that. You didn't hear anything. Go. Why would your uncle be here in the woods calling your name? Just leave. It's time to go.
Well, that's not what happens. We all agreed.
Never what happened.
This thing was maybe 6 feet tall, very skinny, and white as could be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started to back off as we got closer to it, eventually disappearing in the trees. However, all night we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep.
The jig is up, you creep.
I mean, what a horrific thing, though. You're getting in your tent. All you want to do is pass out.
Man, I've been.
Oh, you hear it?
You hear this stuff.
That's my girl voice.
Help me! Do you have any games on your phone?
I'm so bored. You have to help me. How do I unlock your phone?
This shit terrifies me. Late at night, when you were talking about when the lights go out, it scares you. This is one of the things that I think about, is hearing about these strange encounters that people seem to be having with these fucking things.
Well, get ready to be scared again. This next story is called The Walking Dead and takes place in a hospital.
Okay.
Well, mental health facility. Anyway, I am a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, which means that he couldn't talk, but there was no medical reason as to why. He had spoken earlier in his life and in fact seemed quite normal back then, with the exception of being close to 7 feet tall. Which is still normal. Just because they can dunk on you doesn't mean they're not normal.
I mean,
also, plenty of people have taken a vow of silence.
Yeah,
I guess
specifically vampires.
This person had been raised in the Deep South and joined the military when he was 19, but one night vanished. He was declared AWOL and eventually was declared missing and dead. Ugh. 10 years later, a 7-foot tall man walked into a VA hospital emergency room in my part of the Midwest and said to the receptionist, "My name is Marion Duchesne. I've been dead for 10 years. Duchesne, yes, thank you."
Wow.
Those were the last words he ever spoke.
Wow.
He was covered with dust, and he was wearing the same clothes he had been reported to have been wearing the night he vanished.
Whoa.
Were they like tattered and destroyed? I mean, is this some sort of like serious PTSD?
It just says he was covered in dust, same clothes he disappeared in.
Wow.
His social security number had not been used in terms of like finding a job, like getting sure everything's proper for you.
Signing up for OnlyFans.
Exactly.
It's weird that they ask for a social security number.
Yeah, but for the service some of them provide, I'll give them my social security card any day.
Sometimes
I have weird fantasies. His social security card not been used, but he also had no identification. However, they were able to identify him. The family was notified, and they had already grieved the lost man, and that to whomever was claiming to be him simply could not be.
Oh, they were just like, nah.
They demanded never to be contacted again.
That's fucked up. Good Lord, what a bummer.
Wait, so he's only been identified by the name he gave them, not on site by the family.
No. Because
So maybe
he came back and was like, Mom, Dad, I'm back. And they were like, nah.
He came back and just said, I'm this person. I have no identification. Here's my social security card number, or here's my social security number. And that's how they're able to identify him, I guess. Maybe fingerprints as well, tied to his military service.
Well, but he also said, I've been dead for 10 years.
I've been dead for 10 years.
Well,
Marion, go on.
Duchesne.
Marion Duchesne. Go on, Nate.
I was just going to theorize that perhaps Marion Duchesne has been dead for 10 years, and some guy approximating his figure, just a very tall man, killed him, took his clothes, and is now rejoining society as a complete psychotic.
Interesting.
Dusted him up real good.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
Marion Duchesne paced every day, all day, moving his mouth that looked like talking or muttering, but no sound came out.
Scary.
He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to listen, periodically throwing his head back in a laughing, mimicking way of his. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him either positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Marion would just grin, and unless told to stay put, he would get up and start pacing again. On my last day of the job, the last thing I saw was Marion pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh.
Thanks.
Yes.
Creepy.
The unrest stop.
I'm sorry, was that the end of that story?
Yeah, that's the end of the story.
Good Lord, he's just still there.
Yeah, he's still there,
animation and horror and laughing with his ghost friends.
I want to know if it looks like he aged.
Yeah, I have so many questions. Like, I mean, this almost feels like, you remember when Bill and Ted died?
Like waking up zombie situation, like they got done with the spell and then they were like, oh, I'm alive again and I can think for myself.
Well, it almost feels like some kind of like Greek myth where somebody like claws their way out of the underworld because it wasn't their time yet. I was going to say, do you remember when Bill and Ted died?
I do, yes. And Bill and Ted 2.5. And
remember when they came back because they were like, bogus. It's like that. It's almost like he died and spent 10 years, bargaining his way out of the other side or something. And they were like, okay, we will let you go back, but you have to agree to one thing. You may never breathe a word of it. And he was like, okay. And then he didn't realize that meant that his voice would go away. Or maybe since the first thing he said was, I've been dead for 10 years, they were like, guess what? Taking that.
Yeah, that was the last thing he ever said. I've been dead for 10 years. And those were the last words he ever spoke.
Strange.
Now we're at the unrest stop. This person was driving. I'm going to say it in their voice. I was driving across country with my mom and sister when I was 16, and my sister was 20. It was late, but we were all well rested and still alert. We were driving along an interstate and needed gas and a bathroom break. So we stopped at the only rest stop 200 miles. There was a van full of teenagers on a road trip at the gas station, as well as a small gray car parked at the pump in front of us with two young men still outside of it, standing still outside of it.
Oh, yeah, that van full of teens is headed to Camp Crystal Lake, baby.
For sure.
When we got there, everything felt wrong. We had been on the road for days and seen many rest stops at night and had never been afraid until now. My mom and sister went inside and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work. They had left and then they left in a hurry. I was watching the car in front of us and the two men had not moved at all. Not an inch.
Okay.
They weren't talking. They weren't on phones. They were just standing there.
Weird.
Still as stone.
Were they 7 feet tall?
Does not say. I'm going to say they're just probably average,
Yeah.
you know, not descripted. So just average, you know, a good 5'10" maybe.
Okay.
My sister-
average man in black size.
Yeah, I forget how the men in black are both like slightly small and then like really huge.
Yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes.
But no average sized for humans, you know, either shorter or large, but very varied, sometimes together.
They always just barely fuck it up.
They're almost human and they're trying, and I think it's adorable. Now, my sister and mom came back running to the car, and when they got in, the two men slowly turned to look at us while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies. They just turned their heads.
MILF
They just
detected.
shoplifted a bunch of candy.
Yeah. Go.
They all said the same thing, that they had eyes dark as pitch and empty. We got some black-eyed people.
Oh, no.
And apparently they're running a rest stop, and they're creeping everyone out.
Just creeping.
We sped out of there and didn't stop until we were in the next city. The worst thing about the entire experience, we couldn't find the place on any map.
The worst thing about the entire experience, the next city was Tucson.
We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look, and we could not find it on Google Maps or any paper map that we had. We even asked the locals about the creepy gas station on that stretch of the road and only got confused looks. We traveled on that interstate since, and there is no rest stop.
Okay.
I would like to point out that they were well rested and alert when they apparently entered another dimension.
It was a mimic spot. It was a mimic rest stop, pretending to be a rest stop to capture people.
Oh, you were at the Conoco of El Dorado. It only appears once every 1,000 years.
On Highway 9.5.
All right, I'm going to end my segment for this month, and then we'll go into Patron Hell Out and all that jazz, wrapping up.
Baby.
It came for us in the graveyard.
Uh-oh.
Yard.
Was that you adding an echoing effect?
That was me adding the echo.
I got it.
Yes.
That sounded very natural.
Thank you. I'm trying to get better at vocal effects.
Did a great job.
Thank you. We were driving my friend's really old beat-up Subaru through a massive graveyard is an awesome sentence I just read.
No reason.
Yeah, there's no context to this. It's just we were driving my friend's really beat up old Subaru through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond.
Mm-hmm.
There was someone sitting on a rock on the other side of the pond. The figure was all black, and we couldn't make out any features other than the fact it was a man who was wearing some old-style top hat. We waved and shouted, "Hello!" He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting still on the rock.
Yikes.
All
He
of
did
us
summon his Oompa Loompas to chase us around.
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he jumped to his feet, started running to us on the water, and then vanished into thin air about halfway on the pond.
Hachi fucking machi.
My friends and I screamed and ran back to the car.
Good kids.
The car wouldn't start, and we heard something banging on the back of the car. It wasn't a constant bang, but every few seconds or so, we'd hear it. Nobody was outside from what we could see in the dark, but something was making the noise on the car.
Yikes.
I opened my phone and started dialing my mom to come give us a boost.
Bring a gun.
But they had no service. In fact, no one had cell service. For the next 30 minutes, we spent trying to get her car started. No banging was heard afterwards, but we felt this heavy pressure all around us. Finally, the car started and she hit the pedal to the metal.
Nice.
We sped out of the graveyard so fast. Immediately crossing the gates, all of our cell phones regained cell service. One thing I know for certain is that someone or something was out there, and it was not human or an animal.
Freaking Baron Samedi.
I hope the stories I read gave you some goosebumps.
Yes,
I have many more to read in the future. From this article, there's one called The Death March, which involves a prison. I have the Demon's Room.
Yikes.
I got My Mother Attracted Evil.
Okay.
So that's going to be in the future. Maybe not those, but ones of similar titled and natured.
Yowza. Ghost stories for all of Witch-tober.
For all of
Folks,
Witch-tober.
thank you so much for joining us on this extra spooky Werewolf Radar. Happy October. Happy spooky season. A term that I personally hate, but I know some people celebrate it. So, I ain't going to yuck that yum. Folks, we love you to death. Thank you for your continued support. Thanks to our Dark Council members for supporting us financially on the Patreon. If you like what we did here today, you can go to patreon.com/Werewolf Radar. You can help us with a financial donation. We would certainly appreciate it. If you can't help us with a financial donation, just go ahead and tell your friends about the show. Say, hey, there's these funny guys who like to talk about ghosts and stuff. Just like we do. They're just like us. They're just like us.
Send them a link to the show on a text. Be like, listen to this. It's great.
Also, if you liked what we did, give us 5 stars wherever you can give us 5 stars, on the iTunes, on the Spotify, on the Wumbus.com, Plorpo, Sockwatch app. You can hit us up on camtrails.angelfire/pod bros. And give us those stars. Also, if you hate what we did, fuck you. What's up?
Jordan's in
listening?
Fighting mood.
I will fight you. I will turn into a dog man and bound on your Subaru is what I'll do.
Before you turn, I see you getting more hairy in the face there. Before you turn fully, let's do this. Actually, no. Go full wolf right now, Jordan.
Now's the perfect time for it. Absolutely. This is another perk of becoming a Dark Council member is you get the patron howl out every month where we shout out your name and howl to Diana, goddess of the moon, to bless your steps and thank you for what you have done. Raj.
I pulled up the scroll. We got Nick Bailey, Michael King, Spooky Appalachia, Phil Corridor, Janet Bravo, Dylan Gutierrez, Bob Ryan, AWOL51, Amanda, Tobias Livingston, the most well-prepared dead guy, Marcelo Durand, Elliot Broder, Alicia Coy, Cheesebot O'Doom, Abby Klaboo, Ryan Flint, Jessica, Jake Specht, Akirian Soldier, Dean Malik, Dakota Vincent, Brian Ely, Adra Kinkle, our Chancellor of Madness, Egon and Felix, and our Dark Lord of the Bunker, Spectacular Copper. Thank you all so much. Couldn't do this without you. You're the reason we can keep the lights running in the bunker.
Because if it got dark in here, we would be instantly devoured by the things lurking therein. Check us out on Twitter. We won't call it X. Check us out on Threads. We're going to get a Blue Sky. Check us out on YouTube. You can go watch all the apps. You can go find some other content there. Check us out on twitch.com/werewolf_radar. Shout out to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song. And shout out to you, our noble listener. The humble listener hunched in a ditch, waiting for that soft crying in the woods to subside. We cherish you most of all. Until next time, our sign-off line on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky,
Spaceman Joe. And then the reactions go up. I heart.